So with with that combination from Chris I and Mary Lane, what we'd like to do is entertain questions related to the major, from maybe the logistics or whatever the kind of questions that you might ask faculty members right now. And then after that, the faculty will step off, and then we will continue with a student panel where you guys can ask questions directly of students with no faculty around. And Ryan will stay so he can coordinate the Q&A so somebody can field those questions. So feel free to send in questions to Ryan, and he will pitch them out to us.
And Jonathan, just so you know, a lot of these questions, Ryan and I and some of the student panelists have been responding just by text. So one thing we probably want to do is keep that Q&A and make it available.
Oh,
definitely. Okay. So I'll throw one out that's in here. Is it possible to study multiple concentrations?
Oh, that's very interesting. So currently we allow the MCSE concentration to be able to take additional what end up being the primary concentration course of different concentrations as part of their sequence. And so there are some courses that are required for each concentration, and then there's a pool of classes that each concentration can choose from. So MCSE would allow you to take similar classes from multiple concentrations and put them together. What you wouldn't be able to do is to take two separate laboratory practica, meaning to train for both of those in the same semester. Now, this is all, like as we continue to iterate on the program, maybe that's possible in the future, but currently that's the structure. And in reality, it's probably pretty difficult to do two of those, in the same, semester anyway.
Okay. Another question we have here: is it common or advisable to minor in something like neuroscience with the BME major? And what concentration would make the most sense for designing brain-machine interfaces? So we've had a bunch of questions, I think, that are related to brain-machine interfaces, as well as medical imaging and deep learning. So I thought this was a good question to pull in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to answer the question, but I think Chris is actually much more. That's like right in his wheelhouse. So why don't you answer that, Chris?
Yeah. So I mean, if you had an interest in brain-machine interfaces, I think a primary major in biomedical engineering or potentially in electrical engineering and a minor in neurobiology could make a lot of sense in terms of the coursework. But again, I would say if you're really interested in brain-machine interfaces, probably one of the more meaningful things to do would be to join one of the research labs that's working on brain-machine interfaces at Cornell University. Maya Nozomi's lab has a modest-sized project. We have a postdoc and a graduate student on it, and a couple undergraduates currently, trying to develop a brain-machine interface that uses light to read the activity of a large ensemble of individual neurons. And there's several faculty in the electrical and computer engineering department that work on developing both the hardware and, sometimes more importantly, the decoding approaches to try to make sense of the neural activity patterns that are read. So it's both the courses that you take and the majors and the minors that those are associated with, but also the opportunity to engage with this broader research environment at Cornell that could really help you develop the background, the network, the skills, the knowledge to be able to move forward in a focused area of interest like that. It's not just your courses.
Yeah, I mean, I would say another reason why that question is difficult to answer is because that is a very convergent problem in the sense that it integrates so many different science and engineering knowledge. So it really comes down to what part of that problem do you want to focus on. It could be completely on the computer science side, it could be on the electrical engineering side, but it could also be deep into the neuroscience, where you have to figure out how this technology is going to actually, at the point of contact, manipulate the local biology. And each of those areas, the more you get into it, sort of the bigger they are, and the more important being a member of a team that has actual expertise in each of its members to answer that question is going to be needed. And so the research environments that we're talking about at Cornell are also highly collaborative and interdisciplinary. So when Chris mentions an electrical engineering professor, that might be his collaborator. And so Chris is actually utilizing the expertise of an electrical engineer in his own lab to work with his imaging equipment and do things that neither one of them could ever do. And so to get on the ground floor and sort of exposed to what that system looks like would be incredible preparation to complement your curricular experience so that you're very competitive when you leave.
Can I just add, and it's actually asking another, so all these things, these research projects generally can be done for credit, and sometimes they're done for pay. I guess in my lab, I do credit during the academic year and pay during the summer. I think that's probably the most common model. Also, some people get financial aid through work study, and so you can actually do your financial aid work study through research as well. And so there's a couple different, it's credit or pay generally, and in the summer, almost all research is for pay, in fact. And so it's a summer job in a sense, the way an internship position is as well. And there's also some grants in the College of Engineering to help support research projects as well, both during the academic year as well as during the summer through the engineering learning initiatives, for example. And sometimes there's other mechanisms for research funding as well. Sorry, that was a separate question, so I thought I would just tie it in.
Sure.
Excellent. So maybe one or two more questions before we turn it over to the students to give their point of view, and we might revisit some of these questions as well. But I think this is a big one too that I know students ask a lot about. Is there a time frame for the BME department receiving its accreditation? So ABET accreditation is the question.
Well, so our accreditation, we actually have two types. We have to be accredited by the state, and then through ABET, which is the American Board of Engineering Technology. And that gets done so our curriculum is not only the curriculum that Jonathan talked about, our major courses, but it's also the science foundation that that all engineering classes are based on. So the math, science, and also physics and chemistry. And those courses have to also be accredited. It's a package of accreditation. And so we will be accredited when the college goes with all the departments together. And so that is for us is 2 years from now. That plan for that accreditation. So, and then they retroactively accredit everybody before that as well at that point. So and our New York State accreditation is contingent right now on getting the engineering-based accreditation in the future, and then we'll be accredited by the state at that point as well, which is secondary, I would say, to the engineering board accreditation. But I would also add to that accreditation isn't essential for engineering programs, and not all departments in the college are accredited. And in fact, nationally, in some places, there's been a trend away from accreditation because of a little bit the formulaic nature of some of it. That's not always the best interest of the curriculum design and learning. And so at this point, we will be accredited, but I think it's not the be all end all to everything as well. And some departments in the university are not accredited, in fact, intentionally.
Okay. Do we have any last kind of pressing questions for faculty before we let them get on with their evenings and students get to run the ship?
I haven't been tracking. You're the one Ryan, who's been looking closely at all.
All right. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have any last second hands come in that were pressing. Okay, I think the rest will be good questions for the panel to tackle, and so we will bid the faculty good night.
Let me just add one thing, which is thank you all, and realize we're all on email. And if there's things that an individual faculty member can answer, send us an email. And also feel free to reach out to faculty beyond the 3 of us that are on the call here. Ryan could connect you, or any of the students will talk about some of their experiences. And we're all pretty amenable and pretty easy to reach on email. So feel free to reach out. You can find anybody's area of interest and background on the web, and just send an email. We're more public than most people are, and we're really easy to reach. And so please feel comfortable reaching out if that would make a difference to you.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so as our faculty sign off here, please stick with us. If you have additional questions, specific things that you want clarification on, that was said, or questions that you hadn't asked faculty that you'd like to add in here, please feel free to continue to use the question and answer box.